Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to another edition of the 360 Experience podcast. I'm your host, Tim Braheem, and today my guest is a current client of mine in my Leadership 360 signature coaching program, Julie Crow. And I'm so proud of Julie for how far she has come in such a short period of time in being in this program. She's always been a great originator, but she has been an originator who has had to really put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to achieve the success that she's had. Now she's starting to work in a little bit more of a intentional way with a little bit more intelligence backing it. And I think you're going to see that in the conversation today. You're going to hear about how Julie Crow does roughly 180 loans a year, which is fantastic. And as I really want to emphasize this, as kind of a one-woman wrecking crew historically. I mean, when I first met her, she only had just a processor. Now she has a processor and an LOA, and that's why her business is really starting to scale. And she's got great realtor relationships. She hasn't used a CRM at all, which is a huge opportunity for her. And I absolutely love the way she brands and markets herself. That has everything to do with her success. You're about to meet a very kind and very articulate, smart lady who's doing business the right way. And I'm very excited to have her on the show. Before we get to my conversation with Julie, I want to take a moment to share my gratitude with a couple of our sponsors. The first sponsor is Performance Experts Coaching, which is my coaching company, and the Leadership 360 coaching program. We are currently accepting applications for the next Leadership 360 group. We have 8 spots filled and 4 remaining. We only take 12 new clients a year, and this is the only coaching program where I do private coaching. So if you're interested in being coached by me, if you're interested in being coached by Julie Wykes and Scott Bertone, my other 2 coaches, and being a part of a 1-year journey that includes an 8-day business and life planning retreat in Costa Rica, please click on the link below in the show notes, fill out an application, and we'll explore together and see how it feels in terms of a fit. The other sponsorship, of course, is from the Loan Atlas, which is our online virtual coaching platform that is really making an impact on people's lives, especially with all the artificial intelligence that we've infused into the Atlas lately. The Atlas is really making an impact. If you need to know more, want to know more about the Loan Atlas, in the show notes, click on the link. We can set up a time to demo it for you. It'll be well worth your time. You'll learn an awful lot, and you'll learn why so many originators are having great success. And without further ado, my friends, my conversation with Julie Crow in the 360 Experience podcast. Julie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's really nice to see you, and I'm really excited to be with you in a little bit more than a month, like a month and a day now when we have our next retreat together. How's things been going in the business for you so far?
It's good. This year has been busier than I was expecting, so that's been really good. Just been busy because I'm implementing a lot of the things that I've been learning through your coaching program, and so it's been great.
Well, let's talk about what the definition of busy is for you, because busy for you is busy on warp speed for a lot of other people, I think. You're right. A terrific producer. How long have you been in the business for? And give us an idea of maybe what your production numbers were in 2025 and where you're at here at the beginning of May in 2026.
Sure. So I've been in the real estate industry for about 31 years. I started in title. I was in title for 6 years, just right out of high school. And then I've been an originator since 2001. So 25 years I've been an originator. And last year, was 2025. It was a decent year. I'm trying to remember my production numbers. I think I closed almost 100 transactions last year. I'd have to go back and check, but it was more than that. It was 120 transactions, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so roughly 10 deals a month last year, and then through April of 2026, what are you looking at?
So far, I'm averaging about 15 a month, if I were to average it.
Wow, fantastic. So that's a 50% increase in production year over year. Let's just yank straight out of the beginning of the call. Let's yank out a couple of things that you think that you've done that have resulted in you having your production increase already in this year.
So I'm trying to have more of a team help me, which you're aware of this, yes. My issues and the things that I deal with. And so my whole career, I've been kind of a solo loan officer. I mean, I've always had a processor, but I've tried to do everything on my own, and you just can't scale trying to do it on your own. And so I've been learning how to let go. And one of my big goals this last year has been to bring on a production partner, somebody to help me. And in the last few months, I finally have started to transition over to that a little bit, which gives me more time for pre-approvals, more time for marketing and building relationships with real estate agents. And then the other thing I need to do that I haven't been doing is more time on my database. That's going to be another goal for me going forward. But I think that has definitely played into it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about there. I just got back from Santa Fe, New Mexico just 2 days ago, where I was at my Leadership 360 Masters Retreat. And Ryan Grant and I were having a conversation on the last night. And he was sharing with me, he's like, what do you think the number one, his question was, what do you think the number one thing is that this group needs? And I gave him, a bunch of things. You need to be a little bit better at AI and, managing your CRM, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is just a passionate topic of mine. And he listened, he said, you know what? He goes, I don't think it's any of those things. He goes, I think it's leadership. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. And we started to really break down what leadership is. And, one of the things that I think was a really fascinating part of the conversation between he and I was the fact that, a lot of loan originators have a difficult time making the transition from being a solo practitioner to being a true leader of their team and scaling their team and really intelligently looking at what are the puzzle pieces that I need to insert into this equation to ensure that my job description is becoming more refined. So I'm out there getting more loans. And what that really butts up against is fear. We've talked a lot about this. I mean, fear is the crippler of growth and evolution in both our business and in our personal life. So you've been an originator for a long time. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that there was a point in time earlier in your career where you were processing loans. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the problem. As I've told you before, I've met a lot of originators like Katrinka Condi, who were once processors, and it's a blessing and a curse because it's phenomenal because it becomes your value proposition that you know how to structure a loan and you know how to provide great customer care because that's what a good processor does. But when you're trying to originate loans, it could be really a hindrance, right? I mean, because it's almost like you know too much. And if you're a really good processor, then it becomes really difficult to surrender to a new processor that you're supposed to let go to because maybe they're not quite as good as you. And then you start worrying and then you get too immersed in your files. So let's talk about that. Tell me a little bit about what that process has been like for you, because there are a lot of people listening that maybe fall into this category of I'm starting to do more business, but I'm doing too many low payoff activities, but I don't really know how to lead, to Ryan Grant's point. I don't know how to hire correctly. I don't know how to set up the system. I don't know how to surrender. Just go for it right now. Just tell me what you've learned and where you've been and where you feel like you're heading as it relates to this topic.
Oh gosh, I've learned a lot. So I've always had the mindset and attitude that nobody can do it as good as me and it won't get done as good as me. Nobody can word an LOE as good as me or can explain something to a client as good as I can. And so that has held me back. So I have a processor who does the busy work, but I would never ever let a processor or anybody talk to my clients. 100% of it was me. Because they came to me, they wanted me to be their loan officer, so they were going to get me. Well, I'm only one person, and if I'm constantly talking to my clients on the phone and following up on conditions, up until just a few months ago, I was following up on on every condition with a client because nobody could talk to them but me. Because what if they say the wrong thing, or what if they don't make them feel comfortable with what we're asking for or something like that, or asking for something we actually didn't need. So it was just this fear in my mind that I wanted the process to be so smooth for them that I felt like that's how I got my business. And so it took a lot for me to kind of give that up. I realized, especially talking with other loan officers, other friends in the business, talking with you and other coaches that I'm working with, that it's okay and that other people can do a good job as well. But I also it's okay for me to teach them how I want them to do it, because they can be a reflection of me. They know how I do things. So it's been hard, but in the last few months, especially in the last few weeks, I've been handing that over more. And it's harder. It's probably harder for me than it is for my clients. I'll be honest with you. It's harder. They don't know the difference. But I can see how my time has been freed up a little bit. But it's okay. You don't have to be the only one to do something. Every email that would go out, I would look at and make sure that it was worded right. But as I've turned some of those things over, loans are still closing, and I'm actually getting a little bit more business.
Well, is the reason that you're getting more business because you have more time to prospect for business? Is that
right? And I have more time to talk to agents because honestly, most of my business comes from real estate agents. I have great relationships with agents in my local area, and also, prior clients. But I have more time to be more friends with my agents, I guess, if you will. And I have more time for pre-approvals and spend a little more time with my clients, getting them to want to have me help them.
Yeah, so the formula is that the originator in an idealized state should be generating incoming business. And you could have, a production partner or a business development person on your team as well. But I mean, ideally, there needs to be a consistent flow of leads, right? And that consistent flow of leads comes from nurturing the relationships of the referral partners you have and having the time to do it to where they're not forgetting about you. I mean, that's one of the highest payoff activities that you can have. Nurturing your past client database, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, because that's kind of the next generation of where you're headed. And then the leadership thing comes in, to Ryan's point. And, when you think about it, Julie, I mean, it's like, when you first started in the business, I mean, you came out of title and then, you went into mortgages, and it's like nobody put you through a crash course on leadership. And what does leadership mean? Well, it means, first of all, as Simon Sinek defines it, is a leader is no longer responsible for the doing. They're responsible for empowering and training the people that will do the doing and to be a resource to the people that will do the doing. But ultimately, the scale comes from having people that can execute at a very high level. Again, going back to, the challenge that you had gone through, which is that, you're really good at processing a loan, which is a blessing and a curse, because then it's like your point of comparison is you, and you did it with excellence. So now it's like, but that's why, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of months ago on our masterminding call, Jason Russell had said that he's learning that, I think he said that 90% quality of somebody else is better than 100% quality of him, in that situation. I think that's a really true statement. It's like, maybe that processor isn't quite as good as you, but if they're 90% as good as you, and that allows for you to go do a bunch of things that help the business grow, that's a fair trade. But I think, and I want you to speak to this. So we haven't talked about this, I don't believe, but maybe I mentioned this on retreat in Costa Rica, but I think that in this scenario, we're also talking about a very important word that very few people give, any thought to, which is identity. It's like your identity has been, they love me. Because I'm really good at serving the client, and I'm really good at, communicating with them and asking them for as few conditions as possible. And now all of a sudden, I, as your coach, have asked you to change your identity, that you're no longer, the doer that holds their hand. You are the rainmaker that creates more business. How does that resonate for you? And has identity and the shedding of that identity and creating a new identity of yourself been a part of this process?
It has. And it's been hard. I'll be honest. It's been hard because that's what I'm known for. And that's what I feel like I'm known for. That's how I built my whole business. And so it's like I'm totally changing the way that I've structured that. I think I think I told you in the very beginning when we originally started talking about me joining your L360 program is if anybody could help me change, it would be you. And I've learned a lot about my identity. And I don't have to just be what I thought I had to be, because honestly, I could be so much more. And I could be more to other people if I'm not putting all my effort into processing alone. Plus, I can help more people. And I can help my real estate agents and referral partners even increase their business and be better. And I guess I haven't thought about it like identity, like you just brought that up. But I don't know. I would like to change that about myself and still be known that my team gets everything done the way that they're used to, but then take it to the next level and be more of a partner with my partners, with my real estate referral partners.
So let's play with this for a minute. I mean, as I told you before we hit record, like I didn't come into this conversation with a list of questions for you. I just trust that organically this dialogue will unfold as it's supposed to.
Right.
So it'd be a great coaching moment right now. Let's go back and forth on this. So you're familiar with the term limiting beliefs because you read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. For those of you that have not read that book, I highly recommend it. And you can listen to my podcast episode with Gay. He was terrific. So what we're really talking about here is like a limiting belief. And let me paint a little bit of a backstory as to where I think you've been, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate. So I remember a long time ago, I was coaching a client of mine. Her name was Charlie Perry, and we're going through a very similar process. This is about 10 years ago of her shedding the identity of being the person that everybody could go to and get the answer. And I said, you're used to being the hero. And it feels really good. Like people validate you and they say, you're so nice and thank you so much. And you're so on top of it. And then what I'm asking you to do, Charlie, and now, in your case, Julie, is to shed that identity. And I remember Charlie vividly saying to me in a coaching session, she said, well, then who am I going to be? Which is like a really revelatory question, right? Because it's like now, well, who do I, if I know myself as, Tim Braheem, the loan originator who's kind and present and patient and makes people feel good and holds their hand and comforts them. And all of a sudden you're saying, you're not supposed to do that anymore, Tim. Like you're supposed to go out and get more business, okay, and let somebody else do that. Of course, I'm going to feel a little naked, right? I'm going to be like, whoa, like who am I now? So let's work with that belief. So what's the new identity that Julie Crow needs to adopt in this next evolution as she grows her business? Do you want to take a stab at that? Like if you could put a concise statement together of who you are going forward, what's that statement?
Oh gosh. Yeah, you're going to put me on the spot.
That's okay. We'll work through it together.
Yeah. So instead of, I still want to be known as like the go-to person but it needs to be more my team. So maybe my new identity needs to be I'm more, for lack of a better term, the rainmaker, and not the one who has to be there to do everything. So I think it was Jason Russell gave me a quote. He said something like to the effect of, it's my job to get the client to want to use us, but it's my team's job to get them to love us, something like that. And so maybe my new identity is more being a partner to my referral partners and bringing in business. Tell me if I'm way off base on this, but bringing in business for my team to help them be successful as well. Because if we're all doing more business, then we're all more successful and we're all thriving. And so my identity needs to be the one at the top to bring all of that in, but then also to train and mentor them as well.
So what I'm hearing is this: if we could, I think you did a great job, by the way, and if we were to consolidate that into a little bit more of a concise statement, it would sound something like, I'm Julie Crow, and I'm absolutely fantastic at helping clients understand their financial choices. I'm a terrific partner to my referral partners. My past clients know who I am, and I stay in close communication with them. And I have an amazing team of people that make the client feel special, cared for, and make me look good. And that's the secret to our success. Something like that, right? Like there's a new identity there in you as a educator. There's a new identity in there as you being a leader and someone who inspires your team. There's a new identity in there of you being an even better partner to your referral partners who've been kind enough to trust you. And there's a new identity in there of you being really good at deepening the connection with your past clients. I'm not saying that they need to love your team more than they love you. What I'm saying is they can love all of you and your whole team, and that's where you have a little bit more room to generate. I think that I think I told you this story. I think I probably talked about it in Costa Rica, but I never forget the day when my former wife, Anna, went out on maternity leave with our son, Trey, and she was my transaction coordinator. And my office manager, Vicky, came into my office and said, "Hey, Tim, I don't know what to do with this call. This is a past client that's calling and asking for Anna." And I remember being pissed. I was like, why are they asking for Anna and not me? I'm the loan officer. And then I realized, actually, I don't care that they asked for Anna. I'd rather they ask for everybody other than me so I could go out and create new business. I mean, isn't that an ideal scenario, is that they love your team as much as they love you, and it doesn't really matter who they talk to. And then you just, you keep serving more and more people. So, anything else further that you'd like to say about that before we segue a bit?
No, but I agree with you. And I'm starting to realize that. I used to be fearful of that, because then I would think that, well, what if they like them better? And what if they leave me and then I lose my business? I had a lot of fear on that, and I don't have that near as much. But no, I no, that's great.
Yeah, let's talk about that last part there for a minute, because I have had plenty of people over the years say to me, I don't want to have my team talking to my clients as much, because then if my teammates leave, they may take my clients with me, or I don't have an LOA or a junior LO or whatever you want to call the position, because then and it's like, stop. I mean, let's not look at things through the lens of scarcity and nefarious behavior. I mean, could that happen? Yeah. Is it likely? Absolutely not. And especially if you're kind to them, if you're good to your team, if you support them, if you meet with them consistently, they're not going to steal from you and pillage your business. I mean, not to mention the fact that, let's not forget that now that you're spending more time with your referral partners, which I want to get into that in a moment, you're cementing those relationships even more substantially. You have less exposure to somebody swooping in and stealing a referral partner away from you, because you're more intimately connected with them.
Right, I agree. Because honestly, I'm too busy working in the office that I don't have time to get out into their offices and be face to face with them that often. Sometimes they will call me and say, I need you to come into our meeting because I need you to have more FaceTime with my agents. And then that's when it hits me, and I'm like, yes, I know. This is why I have to get a team, and I need to make this identity change you're talking about, is so that I can serve them better.
Well, you are making it. You're in the process of making the identity change, and I'm really proud of you. So where you've come now versus November when we were together in Costa Rica is pretty substantial, and it's a process, not an event, and you're in the process of forming this new identity. You do some really cool things that I want to talk about as it relates to your office, describe your office and when people drive by, and some of the marketing stuff that you do to brand yourself, and you're pretty well known in your community.
Yeah, sure. So my office, I'm lucky with my location of my office. My office is right on a main street that sits right at a stoplight. And we get a ton of traffic that comes through. And so right on my office, right above the door, which everybody sees as they drive by, I actually have a rate sign. Some people you can go back and forth on this if you should quote a rate or not, but I just quote a conventional rate, 25% down, 780 credit score, just so you know how I quote it for those that want to know. 780 credit score with a 1% origination fee. And we change that rate daily, sometimes multiple times a day. But people look for it. They watch for it. They know where my office is if we just say, oh, that's where the interest rates are posted. But it's interesting because I actually get business from it. I get walk-ins from it because people watch my rate. Now, everyone's not going to get the same interest rate. We all know there's a million things that go into what interest rates bring, but at least I'm giving the public some little bit of information that they're wanting to know that they can watch every day. And so hopefully that builds a little bit of trust. I also, as kind of silly as it is, I put my information in the back of my car and I park it out on Main Street so they see my name. And they just see me all around town. So they just know who I am. When real estate agents refer me, they're like, oh yeah, I know her, I've heard of her, which helps give me a little more credibility. The other thing that we do is we like to give gifts and maybe a few other things, just do a couple little minor things that maybe other people don't do. So I can tell you about what we do on that. So I know this is fairly common. When a loan is approved through underwriting, after that initial approval, we will send out crumble cookies to them, just saying congratulations on your approval. What we love about Crumble is it's nationwide. So even if I have out-of-state clients, we can do the same thing for everyone. And then they can just be delivered. The other thing that we do that tries to set ourselves apart is, and I know Tim and I go back and forth on this and have our different opinions, but I attend every closing if I can. And the reason I do that is because that is a place that I can connect with my clients, and it is time consuming, but it's also a place I can connect with my realtors. And especially because I'm so busy processing, it's usually one of the only times I see most of my realtors. But we try to make the closing a little bit different, bring something else to the closing than just sitting down and signing the documents. So my office, and I don't do this, my office does this, like my assistant. We prepare a 3-ring binder that is unique and specific to each client. And I put the realtor's name, their picture, a picture of their home, the day they closed, right on the front of the binder, along with mine as well. And inside there, we have custom-made tabs. We put in their closing documents, a place for them to put their deed and their title insurance when it comes in the mail. We print off a color copy of their appraisal for them. We print off their purchase contract. We print off their home insurance, their home warranties, and we put everything in a nice, neat, organized binder. And as silly and simple and cheap as it is, it just makes all the difference. Most people just rave about it. And it just, little things like that set us apart. We also give out Minky Couture blankets, which is a company that's based here in Utah, but I know that you can buy them all over the country. But we just give them a nice, they're a little bit pricey, but a nice gift just to tell them thank you. So they get a gift at the beginning from us. They get this nice binder, and then they get the Minky blanket at closing.
So here's a litmus test on the Minky Couture blanket. I just didn't want to interrupt your flow, so I wrote down a whole bunch of notes. Good. Okay, so we're going to circle back to some things that you said there. But the litmus test on the Minky Couture blanket is that you have people on refis asking you if they're going to get another blanket, don't you?
Yep. So I've given them out for almost 10 years now, and a client will call me, and they want to know what the rate is, but they want to know if they're going to get another blanket. And I have some clients that'll say, I've got one for almost every member of our family now, and just silly things like that. Okay.
So you had made a statement that I need to call you out on as your coach. You said, I'm so busy processing that I have to go to the closings to be able to see my realtors. That's ending. Okay. Let's be careful. I used to be so busy processing that I didn't have time to see my agents, but that's coming to an end. Okay. So the crumble cookies, let's to ask a couple questions about that. Because like if people are always asking like, hey, do you send out a approval gift, a closing gift? What do you send? My strong opinion, as you know, is don't send tchotchkes. Like send less things and make them a utility, like something that people are going to use over and over again, or if it's, food that they're going to really like, but it needs to have impact to where they're like, wow, this is a really nice gift. And a lot of originators send out stuff that just, you look at it and you toss it in the trash because it's not anything that you'd want to keep. And that's just a waste of money. So on the cookies, let's talk about like how much they cost. Where do you send them? Do you send them to their work or do you send them to their home? And
Right.
What's just a quick system to where it's like you're not having to worry about it to where it automatically goes out?
Right. So it's probably between $20 and $28 even to have them delivered. And it just depends on what area it's at. The reason I like those is because I don't want it to be about me. I just want to say thank you and congratulations. And I know a lot of people will send cookie services, and these are packaged cookies that maybe are kind of a few days old or who knows what. Crumble cookies are hot, they're fresh. And when somebody brings you these cookies that are like this big and you get 4 of them fresh that you can eat right then and your family can enjoy, that kind of makes a bigger impact than a packaged cookie from who knows how long ago, how old it is. But I actually send them to their homes because so many people work remotely now, and you just never know where they're going to be. And so I don't know, but I send them to their house. And my processor, in answer to your other question, as soon as my processor orders them and sends them. So as soon as the loan comes out of underwriting, it's approved. It just takes her 5 minutes. She just finds the closest crumble cookie to their home address and just orders it online.
Yeah. And again, I mean, look, if you send them to me, you'd be my best friend because I'm the cookie monster. Like
Right.
I love cookies more than anybody I know. So, especially if they're chocolate chip, but like impact, right? So it's like, oh, wow, these are really good cookies. Or, wow, this blanket is the blanket's really good because you use it
Right.
over and over again. So you're watching a movie on the couch, you're underneath that blanket. They're thinking about you indirectly. They're remembering you. And that's money well spent. We can tend to spend a lot of money on people that we don't even know trying to generate new business when we forget how much more impactful it is to spend a little bit of that money on the people that we do know because we want to get repeat business and referral business. So speaking of referral business, let's talk about the closing table. I was going to ask you about it, by the way, anyway, so you didn't even need to go there on your own. You have this recording, okay? So you can keep this. You are the first originator that I've ever known that made me think twice about my strong disagreement with going to the closing. I've always said that I don't understand the value of taking time to go down to your car, get in the car, drive to the closing, sit there for an hour, come back. It's a big interrupt to your day. Like why would anybody do that unless they could show me empirical evidence that this is generating new business? But when I heard you talk about what you do, and especially the binder and how you present it, and it's co-branded with you and the real estate agent, and how you're very intentional about your face time with those agents that are at the closing table as well, I started to say, finally, somebody who has a perfect closing table process, right? Like I do the same thing every time, and it's very intentional and a great final memory that the borrower and the agents have of you. So tell us a little bit about like what that experience looks like, because I really dig it and I think that it's smart.
Yeah. So it's great. So I'll pull out, the title company, they do as good a job as they can, but a lot of times they'll just put it in a folder, the documents, or they'll email them. And a lot of people like electronic, but so I'll open it up and I'll show them, and I'll go through every single tab with them and show them everything that's in there. And you should just see their eyes, especially those people that are very organized, and just sometimes I've had clients take it and just hug it and say, I love this. This is the best thing. Most of my clients say, I've never had this before. Why did my other loan officers not do something like this for me? The other thing that's so interesting is the escrow officers. Almost every time, no matter what escrow officer I close with, they'll be like, wow, that is really cool, especially if it's one I don't work with a lot, and they'll say, nobody else does this, or I've never seen this from somebody else. And it just validates me, I think, being something a little bit different. Plus, my realtors love it because I'm advertising them. This is something they're going to keep. And when they're ready to refinance or sell in the future, that whole idea is for them to pull that binder out. And that real estate agent and myself are right on the cover, our contact information, our photos, and it has all the information about their home, their appraisal, their contract, what they paid, everything that a realtor is going to need to know.
Julie, I have a quick question for you. Do you do any social media marketing?
No, that's another goal.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. I just trapped you. I want to point something out to everyone listening here. We're talking about a lady who's doing, 180 deals a year right now. And she's going much higher. Trust me. I mean, it's going to go up to 25 deals a month, no problem, as soon as she's really, cuts the umbilical cord on processing the loans. I mean, that's why it's escalating and it's going to go higher. And everything that you're hearing is old school, right? Like back of my car, I've got my information so people pass by it. Rates advertised and changing, throughout the day when you come to the stoplight. Old school binder, organizing everybody's documents for them. Cookies to people's house when their loan gets approved. These are the things that worked 25 years ago and they still work today. And I actually don't want you to get overly cute with spending a lot of time on doing social media marketing because what you're doing right now is really working. And what we want to do is we want to generate more time for those two primary pillars of new business, which is the agents and your CRM, which is where we're going next in this conversation. So the last thing that I'll say is I wouldn't also underestimate something that Julie just articulated that's really important. That escrow officer at the closing table, for those of you that are in attorney states, same thing, is going, wow, I've never seen anybody do this before. Edifying Julie in front of that agent. And that escrow officer knows a lot of realtors, and that escrow officer is at the closing table when a deal goes bad. And that real estate agent that they know is upset with their lender. And I guarantee you there's times where the escrow officer's like, hey, you know what? You may want to consider working with Julie Crow because she's really terrific. Has that ever happened that you're aware of, by the way?
Many times. Honestly, escrow officers are a huge source of referrals of real estate agents to me. I would probably guess maybe half of my agents I work with actually came from escrow officer referrals. Like, it's pretty significant.
Yeah. I mean, I used to get referrals from my escrow officer too. So, I mean, I totally anticipated that that's what you would say. Okay. So let's talk about realtors. How many do you work with? What's your strategy for developing relationships with realtors? Like, maybe you can even walk us through, like, if you're targeting somebody, what's the approach? Or do you not target? Do you just work via referral? What do you say to them when you meet with them for the first time? How do you get them to want to send business to you?
Yeah, so I might be different than some people because I'm not a salesman. I'm not a big marketer. Most of my realtors I've just met organically through transactions. A lot of them have been listing agents on transactions that I've done. A lot have been agents where the buyer had came to me for some reason. So I got to know the agent through that transaction. And then also from escrow officers referring people to me. And so I build my realtor relationships just through transactions, which goes back to I try and do the best job I can. And that's why it's been hard for me that nobody can do a better job than me, because it's how my whole business has grown. But I probably work consistently, and it's just because I don't spend time to go out and market agents, which that's one of my goals with bringing on a production partner, is to be able to do that, which will help grow my business. But I probably work with, I have probably 15 core agents that I work with, and I'm just constantly in contact with them through transactions. I need to do better at taking them to lunch and seeing them, but I struggle with that. They'll call me and say, oh, I'm getting bombarded by lenders, but it's okay. We're good. You just do a good job on my loans. That's what they want. They just want to work with me because they know what will be done. And so I've just built that reputation, I guess is how you could put it. and it's kept them loyal, thank goodness. I love working with them. They love working with me. And just through transactions, I guess.
So just some thoughts on that. Again, I want you, because I want to scare you, because I want to use fear to motivate you. I want you to think, that's what a good coach does. So I want you to think about every time you're processing a loan, I want you to think about that other loan officers are hitting on your realtor. They're trying to steal your realtor from you, and you're leaving yourself exposed. And sooner or later, you're going to lose one of those realtors to another lender who's Johnny or Jane on the spot because you're chasing down an HOA cert or following up on an appraisal review or whatever. Like that's where you're exposed and vulnerable. Like, I mean, think about how much more significant your relationships would be with those 15 realtors if you were spending a little bit more time in a socialized setting with them. The other thing I want to comment on is that we haven't used the term perfect loan process yet, but I mean, I know that was something that you, when you first became a member of the Loan Atlas, that you started to really dive into. And this, this ability to cross-sell the listing agent on a transaction, the buyer's agent, if you don't have a relationship with them, that's a very high payoff activity. I mean, we're talking biz dev at that point. So it doesn't have to be like that you have to shed that. Like, as an example, like you could have in your perfect loan process that when the loan is approved, you get notified by your processor and you personally call or send a video or a voice text or whatever to both agents, enthusiastically sharing, we're so happy to be able to get this done for you, get it cleared to close early, et cetera, et cetera. So you're using that moment of power to create influence with those people that you'd like to develop rapport with. When you meet with the agents, has your value proposition always been that, like, look, I know loans and I'm going to be able to make sure that your loan gets done well? Like, what's it been? Because that might need a little bit of shifting as well.
It's pretty much been that. And it's just the reputation that I have created over the years, which has taken a long time. And so I've had one particular agent, I've worked with her for probably 15 years. And, she says to me all the time, she goes, meeting you changed my life. Like, it changed her, the way that she worries about loans closing. Like, it freed up her time because she wasn't babysitting a lender all the time. It changed her business, where her business was able to grow. And so that's kind of my value proposition is, let me take this off your plate. I'll take care of it. You can trust me. I've never once let you down. And I want to change every real estate agent's life. Like that agent who, she tells me that all the time. And she's great. She'll even tell other agents. She'll change your life. If you start working with her, she'll change your life. So
we need a little tweak in the scripting. The me needs to become us.
Right.
We will take the headaches away from you. Work with us, and it's going to be a different experience. And then I'm so blessed to have an amazing team of people around me that care as much as I do. And between us, like the combination of my care and the care of my team, I mean, your clients are in good hands, and you're in good hands with us. So a little bit more of the cumulative team. Let's talk about that for a minute. So how many people do you have on your team? And maybe give me their names and their positions.
So I have two. So I have Alyssa, who is a processor, and Angela, who's my new production partner. She was my processor, has switched to my production partner, and then we brought on Alyssa to process.
And how's Alyssa doing, first of all?
Good. It's taken a couple months to get up to speed because she was new to the industry, but she's sharp, and she's caught on really, really well. And I've been having Angela teach her and train her because I don't have time for that. So I'm learning how to delegate and lead a little bit. I mean, I'm there to help, but she's picking it up and is doing well.
I think that for you, and pardon my French here, but I don't know any other way to express this, is that you need to make sure that you have people that have a give a shit factor. like
Right.
that they give a shit as much as you do. Like, cause that's the thing is that you really care and you care about the experience. You've built this brand. You've been doing it for a long time. You've been rewarded for it emotionally by people who thank you, tell you that you changed their life. So it's like really important that as you add members to your team, that you're adding a personality that cares as much as you do. And that's a high S in the disc. I mean, that's like a super, is your S really high, by the way? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm going to have to go look.
It's got to be pretty high based upon our conversation here. I mean, so Julie.
You know what? I remember I was pretty even across the board. I don't know
like
if you
my
remember
son.
that.
You're like my son.
Yeah.
My son is
I
like
was like
straight across, and that's a dynamic personality type because you can kind of flex and adapt to a lot of things, which is cool. But yeah, I think that having high S's is an important component to the hiring process for you because they're going to naturally care. Like that's just ingrained in that personality. I mean, look at Julie Wykes. I mean, she's a super high S. You know how much she cares. So let's talk about your CRM. So here we go. This is your favorite topic, it sounds like. So how many people do you have in your CRM that are past clients? What platform are you using, and what are you doing to stay in touch with them?
I'm embarrassed to tell you. I had a couple people from the group text me yesterday asking about CRMs of what one I'm using, and I had to reply with none.
So where do you have where do you have the past client information?
Spreadsheets, and just in my origination system. But my processor, luckily, like I have some really organized people who work with me, and they keep track of it because we do send out handwritten birthday cards. We do a whole stack every week. A new stack goes out, and all of that is kept on spreadsheets. I've tried CRMs, and I just cannot figure out how to get them to work because I think I'm too busy originating that I've never put the time and focus into a CRM. And I know I'm losing a ton of business. I know that you have a client, Tim, who gets most of his business from his CRM, and I want to be that person, or a good portion of it. And I've never in my 25 years in loans had an active working CRM.
Okay. So, wow, like I'm excited for you.
I know.
Let's roadmap this out, Julian, because there's so much opportunity here. How many past clients do you have?
Thousands.
Okay. So, number one is that you shouldn't spend any time getting those people into a CRM. You should pay somebody to get them into a CRM. So you could just go originate more loans. You originate 2-3 extra loans, you're going to pay for what it costs to get that into a CRM. Now, which platform? I get asked this question all the time. What platform is the best platform? The answer is very simple. The one you use. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry. I know some of them are more sophisticated than others, and that can actually be a negative thing because the more complicated they are, the more friction there is to implementation. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. I mean, there's so many of them out there. You could put, you were in the text thread yesterday in the L360 family where people were sharing about it. Pick one. Pick the one that, that's easiest to implement. Jay Daisy might be who you're talking about. Yeah. Jay just spoke on Monday in Santa Fe at our master's retreat for about 15 minutes on what he does to manage his CRM. Now, let me give you some numbers so you can put it into context. Jay did 198 loans last year. He's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So very nice year, 16 deals a month. He's always in the 200 to 250 range, right in there, sometimes 300 back in the COVID days. Mm-hmm. And 73%, I believe he said, of his business comes from his past client database. Okay, wow. So if he did 180 loans if he did 198 loans, 150 of them, which I think that was the number he gave us, came from his past clients. He doesn't do a lot of things. He does a couple of things. Number one, for 14 years, every single month, he sends out a 1-page newsletter that he writes to his entire database via snail mail. He goes to Costco, he buys the stamps. Why, I don't know. I texted him this morning and said, bro, we need to get somebody else to go to Costco for you. But I mean, other than that, this is a great system you have. He literally just gathers information all month, Julie, and he has a kind of standing appointment with himself for a couple hours in his calendar near the end of the month. And he'll sit down, quiet time, look at all the stuff that he's gathered, an interesting story, a new restaurant that he went to in the community, a cooking recipe that he found, a sports trivia question, something that's happening in the financial markets. And the way he describes it is he picks one person and he writes them a letter. So it's a very personal. So like he picks Julie Crow and he's like, dear Julie, I just want to share with you like what's happened over the last month in business and in the world and in my life and some things that you might find to be interesting. And he just writes this 1-page newsletter. And then he has his team copy it and they handwrite all the note cards or handwrite all the envelopes and he sends them out. He knows the statistics he's given me is 1% per month of his database will do a loan with him as a result of this newsletter. He's tracked it for like 14 years. So if you have 1,000 people in your database, okay, and you divide 1,000 by 12 months, okay, that's roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of about 85, okay? 1% of those, 1%, not 1% per month. Bottom line, I might be giving you the mathematical equation wrong, but 1,000 would equal 8 deals a month. Okay, so that's 10%, I suppose, per month or 1% per year. Right. So, yeah, that's what it is. 1% of his database per year is 100 loans, divided by 12 months is roughly 8 deals a month. Okay, that's the one thing he does. The first thing he does. The second thing that he does is he sends out HomeBot. He just stays in front of them every single month with a real estate report card, that basically shows them the value of their home. And then the third thing that he does is every year in January, and they stagger it because he doesn't want to get bombarded with too many Zoom sessions, they send out a survey to the clients with an annual financial review. And it's just like, rate for me on a scale of 1 to 10, your relationship with your CPA, your financial advisor, your life insurance agent, and numerous other questions. SurveyMonkey, I think he said 16% of his database responds to it. So he gets like 160 responses out of his 1,000-person database. That's why they stagger it out, because he doesn't want to have to get bombarded with having to respond to those 160 people all at once. So it goes out over the course of, say, a couple of months. And when he gets the response, he reviews it and he records a Loom video, and he will make outbound referrals. He'll make suggestions based upon the response. He'll schedule one-on-ones with them. 150 deals he did last year just from his past client database, just from those 3 things. So what do we need to do to get you started, Julie? Let's develop a plan. Let's write a MIG here on this call.
Okay. It makes me sick when I think about the business that I've lost by not having an active CRM. So. Well,
okay. You know what I'd rather have you do? Because you know that I'm all about psychology. I'd rather have you look at it not as all the business that you lost and how it makes you sick. I'd rather have you look at, over the next 12 months, how much is it going to cost you to not do the CRM, and how much is it going to cost your children? Because that'll create leverage for you. Like let's future forecast what the cost of inertia is right now. And I know that you're working on other things, so it doesn't have to start today. But I also think that it's outsourced. I think that you could have a VA, easily do this. There's VAs in the Philippines and places like that. Larry Gonzalez, who I'll introduce you to, uses VAs religiously and very effectively. You could have a VA get all those people into a CRM, not an overcomplicated one, get you signed up on your HomeBot, and you do a newsletter if you want to, if that resonates for you. It doesn't have to be that, but that's a nice personal touch. Once a month for a couple hours, and they execute. I don't think you should be doing any of it. You come up with your questions for the financial review. The VA sends it out. When they get responses, they send it to you. And again, those are 3 examples. I think, it's funny because when we were having our mastermind, there was a lot of active discussion around how frequently do you stay in touch with your past clients? And I was just sitting listening because I have a strong opinion based upon my own personal experience that there is a sweet spot. Anything more than that is actually too much. And I had heard I had a podcast a few years ago with Carl White, and I asked him the question, how many times should you touch your past client database a year? And he said 60. And I'm like, 60? I'm like, what would you send? And he actually didn't really give me any details of what would be sent. And I remember thinking, you're white noise at that point. Like, I mean, if you're hitting me 60 times a year, Julie, I'm tuning you out. I'm opting out. So it's like, I think that the sweet spot is, I don't know, 15 times a year, something like that. I mean, you got HomeBot once a month. I mean, there's 12 and then maybe 3 other times. And then, or in Jay's case, he's doing maybe closer to 24 times because of his newsletter and then the financial review. But like, what other things have you thought about sending to your database? Like if your database were set up, what would you dive into sending?
Probably just something similar to that. Maybe a newsletter, but I personally hate to get online newsletters. I haven't thought about it too much. Maybe quarterly market updates. Sometimes people want to know what's happening that way, but HomeBot kind of does that same thing. Or the one through MBS Highway. I do actually have a subscription to that, but I've started to have my processor go in and actually send those because you've got to go put the clients into them every month after they close. I hate spam myself, so I've always struggled with CRMs because I hate all the spam I get in my email. So I would love your opinion on what you would send.
Well, I mean, first of all, Jay snail mails his newsletter. Okay. Right. So it's not spam via email.
Right.
And I think snail mail is even more effective today than it was 20 years ago. And I used to do a lot of it because you don't get as much stuff in your mailbox as you used to. So there's a lot less competition for eyeballs, if you will. Yes, it costs some money, but sometimes you got to spend money to make money. I mean, you make a lot of money on every loan you do. So I think I used to do a quarterly newsletter and it was 4 pages, so I'd send it out once a quarter. It was very, very effective. I would definitely use Home Report. I mean, it's cheaper than HomeBot. So that's going to put you in front of the client monthly. With something has a tremendous click-through rate. I mean, that's all you need to know. I mean, it's like people were saying this last week, and the click-through rate's like north of 80% or something. It's like everybody opens that thing up. So it's like, that tells you everything you need to know. And then what I used to do, Julie, is I just would be very strategic with targeted groups of people and sending them something that they found that I knew that they would find to be valuable. So I used to have a rule with my personal assistant, Fern, that we need to send out one thing of value to a group of people in the database every single month. Value being defined as something that we knew that they would be interested in, and a group being defined as 10 people or more. So it could be 15 people on our database, but we would capture information on them. And it's easy to do in today's world with social media, which we didn't have back then. It's like, give me everybody in the database that likes golf, or give me everybody in the database that likes gardening, or give me everybody in the database that has kids, that live at home. And then, you send something that would be of interest to them via email. Back then is what we would do. And then sometimes we would actually do it via snail mail. So, or some type of, home delivery, like your cookies. So like one year, like I'm big on utility. Like I said, like if they're going to use it over and over again, then I'm winning. It means that they find it to be valuable, and I don't really care about anything other than that they find it to be valuable. And it doesn't have to be expensive. So like the jar openers, you're trying to open a jar that's tough, like of pickles or whatever. One year I sent, 1,000 of those out to my database. Another year I sent a chip clip out to my entire database. And I always use chip clips. I never have enough of them in the house. I mean, I know that Cindy Ertman used to send the schedule, a magnet that you put on your refrigerator, the schedule of the Los Angeles Rams football team. Everybody get it, and just that way they know when their team plays this season. You got to get creative with it. I mean, When 9/11 happened, I sent every single person in my database an American flag pin, and I got tons of phone calls from people saying, "Wow, this is so nice of you," and yes, right now is a time to be patriotic, and blah 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 blah. So, yeah, I mean, just being somewhat consistent with it, touching them a couple times a year, and then also voice broadcasting your database. Like, I mean, you've heard me talk about this, like, wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And I hope that you feel grateful because we're so blessed to have so many wonderful things happening in our life. And I hope that you find connection with your family over this Thanksgiving weekend, and voice broadcast my entire database with that kind of a message. And just ways of creatively staying in touch, I think are really important. But having all of that information in a centralized place, Julie, is the first step. And then from there, it gets easier.
Yeah, I know that. I just have to do it.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that next Wednesday because we have a coaching call next Wednesday.
We do.
Although I don't want to hijack your call. I mean, it'll be whatever you want it to be about. But if we have room for that discussion, we could talk about a CRM. But I think that's like a really big next step for you. I think that gets you in the 25 loan a month range. Just to maybe think about just if you stayed in close communication with your past clients. So let's shift here a little bit to personal, like, what have you been working with? I mean, we've talked a little bit about this perhaps, but I'm curious, is there anything else that you're working on from a mental approach perspective to business and or life?
Personally, I'm trying to be more present at home and more present with my family. This business is really easy to let it take over everything. And I still struggle with it. I work, I answer phone calls at night, weekends, I'm just always available. And that's what people know of me. But I'm learning to, if it's not really urgent, does it really have to be done right now? I'm learning to ask better questions so that I can push some of that stuff off until Monday or Tuesday, especially if it's a weekend, till I'm back in the office so I can spend more time with my family. And that has surprisingly, people are okay with it.
Yes,
I mean, things still have to be done on the weekend, right? But personally, that has helped me. I mean, because I have 5 kids. I have a granddaughter. I have a 6-year-old as well. So, I mean, I have all aspects of my family that need me. And, I rarely would eat dinner at home and, just working constantly and even on the weekends. And so that's been huge for me.
So let me ask you about the surprisingly people have been okay with it. Go deeper on that. Like what were you expecting and what have you been pleasantly surprised by?
Well, I guess I would expect that if they didn't get an answer right then they would probably go someplace else or reach out to somebody else. But realistically, somebody else is probably not working either. But just because they're reaching out to me, so what's been surprising to me is like they'll send me a text and say, so-and-so referred you to me and they said you can help me with financing. So I'm thinking that means they need help right this minute. They don't. They're just reaching out because it's on their mind saying, I need some help with seeing if I can qualify for a loan. And so when I reach back out to them, instead of saying, oh, yes, I can talk to you right now, I'll say, that's great. Thank you for reaching out. I'd love to talk with you. What does your schedule look like on Monday? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, they'll just schedule it and then we'll meet and we'll schedule a Zoom or something. And then we actually have a better meeting and a better connection because we've scheduled out a time instead of me just trying to pick up the phone and call them right then. So that's been surprising to me. I just thought they wanted to hear right then because they texted me right then. They only texted me because it was on their mind. They didn't need the meeting right then.
It's such a great testament to how we're all just incredible storytellers, right? Like we just make up a bunch of stories and make a bunch of assumptions. Right. I mean, I was with a guy named Sam Rosenblatt on Monday night in Santa Fe at my retreat, and he's a big producer. Sam does 25, 30 deals a month. And he's like, we're sitting next to each other at dinner, and he goes, look at this. And he shows me his phone, and it's like a text message from, a new client who wants him to do a pre-approval letter. And it's like, we're in Santa Fe. It was like 7:30 at night, which means it was where he's from Baltimore. So it was like 9:30 at night on the East Coast. And I said, how are you going to respond? And he goes, I don't know. I go, let me tell you how to respond. Say, got your message. So nice to be connected with you. I will call you tomorrow morning to get you whatever it is that you need. Like like no wiggle room. Like, this is how it's going to happen. Like, it's not like I need to give you an excuse as to why I can't deal with it right now. I'm at dinner. I mean, the guy's texting you at 9:30 at night. Like, he's lucky that he's even getting a response from you. It's kind and courteous to respond. Hey, I just want you to know I got your message. You'll be one of my first phone calls tomorrow morning, after 8 a.m. I'll talk with you then. They're not going to go somewhere else. And if they are, then would you want to work with them anyway at the end of the day? Right. I mean, if they're that demanding out of the get-go. And so I'm glad that this is a very important realization for you from a perspective of the life balance that you're seeking and time with your family, to not get sucked in because you're buying into a belief that you'll lose them if you don't drop everything you're doing. Okay. So last question. And it's a question I always ask every guest. Be interesting to see where you take this. So I get you into a situation where you get to have a conversation, current Julie Crow with 18-year-old Julie Crow. And the conversation is 18-year-old Julie Crow asking what it is that you need to know. What wisdom would you share with the younger version of yourself as to how she should continue on with her life?
With my life or with my business?
Well, you could take it anywhere you want, my friend. Business or life, whatever works for you.
Well, I feel like I have a great life. And that's one thing I love about this business too, is that it gives you the ability to have a really great life, financially give it a great life. But I would tell my 18-year-old self to, honestly, I wish I had something like this 20 years ago, like your coaching program and helping me get my mindset right. I wish that I had some leadership or some coaching to structure my business different, because I feel like I've lost so much of my time, especially with my family, trying to grow my business. This business is really easy to get sucked into, and it's just kind of a grind, especially as you get more and more business. And I love it, but I didn't have a very good balance. And I would tell myself to try and find that balance earlier than I'm trying to find it now. I mean, I'm more on the tail end of my career now than I was in the beginning. And I also would tell myself, especially in business, to start a CRM 20 years ago, not today. But it's really just setting that balance and expectations. I think my career could have been very different. My life could have been very different if I would have had the tools, because I was just an originator, and I worked for retail companies for a long time, but nobody ever mapped it out for me of how I could build my business without it taking over my whole life.
Beautiful answer. Thank you. And thank you very much for spending time with me today and inspiring people, because you shared a lot of really good practical and tactical things that you're doing that have resulted in your success. And I'm really grateful for that. It's been a pleasure to have you, Julie.
You bet. Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to say thank you to the listener for tuning in. And I look forward to bringing another episode of the 360 Experience to you in a couple of weeks. Hopefully everybody has a great start to their summer as we're entering into that period of the year. And we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks, everyone.